Hello friends, welcome back to Belle's Library. I'm Heather, and today I have a really fun reading vlog. I'm so excited to share with you guys. It's gonna be fantastic. I just know it. So this idea actually came around when I was watching one of G's videos where she did this, if you like this book, you might like this one as well. And she was talking about in Caraval, if you liked Caraval, how she talks about the dresses and what they're wearing and that kind of detailing to some of that, then you might also like Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lynn, which I love that piece of Caraval. It's one of my favorite parts of it. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect recommendation for me. And that kind of spurred the idea of, what about if I read some of these books that are recommended from books that I love, read these other books that they're saying to read that kind of match with these. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. This is going to be my reading vlog. So I have accumulated from 4 different booktubers some of their videos. I picked one of their, if you like this book that I loved, and read this book, and I'm going to read those books. So that's what we're doing, and we're going to go ahead and run through what those selections are and why, and just kind of look and see what they were saying. And I'm so excited. And then we'll vlog the rest of the experience and see if I actually do like the books that are being recommended by these booktubers. So before we jump into all of that though, hit down below, click that subscribe button. I also have Goodreads, Instagram, and Storygraph down there, so we can talk bookish on all different platforms. Would love to do that with you guys, so please take a moment and do that. And then I will find the first little video here of what we're going to be reading. Okay, so the first one that I have is from the lovely Haley in Bookland. So I have it pulled up here, and we're going to see what she says, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, here we go.
Next up, if you enjoyed The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, you should check out The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. Once again, big Christina Lauren fan, but these both deal with tech. This is more so women in STEM, and this is a woman who ends up kind of in a STEM environment because she signs up for this matchmaking service, wasn't really expecting to, but it's actually matchmaking based on DNA. So she agrees to that. She's like, okay, I can see how that would work. And it ends up that she actually is a match with the owner or creator of the dating service. She ends up matching with him at 9.
Okay, so basically she thinks that these both have really fun kind of STEM romance vibes going on. So The Love Hypothesis, read last year, one of my absolute favorite romances. Oh my gosh, so cute. I actually might be rereading that one this month because my book club is reading it this month, and if I can squeeze it in, I'm just going to reread it with them because it's so cute. But she's saying that The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren may be something that's intriguing as well, and I have enjoyed a few Christina Lauren's books, most of them that I've read. I haven't read a ton by them. So I'm excited to read another one by them. And so we're going to read The Soulmate Equation, which has this kind of other, it's a different type of STEM. Obviously, it's not science like The Love Hypothesis in the same way. It's more of the tech end of it. But I'm excited to see if I like this one. I've heard mixed things. Some people really love this one, some people don't. So we'll see. But that is the first book we're going to be reading. So our next book recommendation is going to come from Becca at Becca in the Books. And so let's go ahead and listen to what she's got to say real quick, and then we'll chat about this one.
If you like The Bear and the Nightingale and the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, then I think that you will really love Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Now, The Bear and the Nightingale follows a young girl called Garcia who has the ability to see the spirits of the forest. The spirits of the forest actually perform an important role in the town that Garcia is from, in that they actually protect the people of the town from the evil spirits of the forest. However, when Garcia's father remarries, he marries a very devout woman from the city who moves in and brings a priest with her. Historical fantasy. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia is also an adult fantasy. It is also a historical fantasy, and this one
we're going to just skip forward because I want to know why we're choosing Gods of Jade and Shadow.
So the thing that both of these have in common is mythology. They also have a similar story structure. This one has more story in it and more plot threads because it's a series, but one overarching thread in here, which was my favorite element of this book, contains some romantic elements, is also present in Gods of Jade and Shadow. They are both very atmospherically written, and they are both very, very well written books, and essentially they are pretty much the same kind of story but with different mythologies. So I think this one is slightly more hype than Gods of Jade and Shadow, but if you really loved this series like I did, then I think you'll also really love Gods of Jade and Shadow. My only criticism really of Gods of Jade and Shadow is that it's not a series, and you know I prefer my extensive.
Okay, so they're both kind of historical fantasies, it sounds like. Mythology, I have, I guess, mixed feelings about, but I think this is a different type of mythology, which I loved in The Bear and the Nightingale, so hopefully I will love it in Gods of Jade and Shadow as well. I actually kind of am appreciating the fact that this is a standalone that I'm going to be reading because I don't need to be starting any more series, so that is kind of a nice thing about this pick, although I don't always enjoy standalone fantasies quite as much, so I mean that makes me a little concerned. Becca seems to still enjoy it, but like she said, she would prefer it to be more of a series to add to it. But we'll see. And we'll see what this kind of romance is that kind of adds into it. I'm kind of curious about what that's all about, but it sounds like it has kind of similar vibes. I love that she said that it's going to be atmospheric because I love me a good atmospheric book. Like, that can just make the book for me right there. So there's pick number 2. All right, now we are moving on to a recommendation from Miss Gabby over at Gabby Reads. So let's go ahead and jump into this one.
And then the last one that I have for you is with a book that I'm still currently reading, so I can't fully recommend this, but I'm like already 100 pages into this, and I feel like it's an accurate comparison. So I would say if you like the book The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, I think you would really like It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And again, I'm still only 100 pages into this, so I can't like wholeheartedly recommend this yet, but oh my god, these are both romance novels that follow this young female protagonist who moves from kind of like a city vibe down to like a small town vibe and has to deal with the change that comes with living in a city to a small town and dealing with a grumpy local who doesn't like them because he thinks that they're like a Barbie and like annoying. And in The Simple Wild, we're following this young girl named Kala who moves from a bigger city in Canada. Similar in the sense that we're following this girl named Piper who is this very spoiled rich girl, like very much Alexis from Schitt's Creek vibes, and we kind of get to see what happens when her stepfather cuts her off from her money and forces her to move from Los Angeles to this very vibes to The Simple Wild. I especially love reading about these small town vibes too in both of these books because it's almost like the town is as much of a character as the rest of the characters in the book. In this book it's Alaska and in this book it's Washington, but either way I just really love reading the places that these books take place in as well. And yeah, so I'm still currently reading this one, but so far I'm loving it and I'm feeling like it's so much like The Simple Wild. Oh.
Okay, so The Simple Wild I read a couple years ago and adored. Loved the small town vibes, the city girl stuck there, Grump and Sunshine kind of deal going on. I have read a Tessa Bailey before and it wasn't my favorite, but I've been hearing really good things about It Happened One Summer and it's Schitt's Creek kind of inspired, which that show, oh my gosh, after it finished I was like, no, you can't be done. Oh my gosh, it was so good. So I'm excited to kind of relive some of that as well. And yeah, a lot of what she said, some key buzzwords that I'm like, heck yes. So I do have a couple of romances and then a fantasy right now. And I'm kind of happy to have a couple romances. I'm in the romance mood, so that is perfect. But we're going to get one more book, and I really just wanted to make sure it wasn't 3 romances because I wanted to kind of mix it up. So this next one is not a romance, but it's going to be a book that is in one that I think it's Covers with Cassidy did. So this next one is kind of a little bit different. So Covers with Cassidy, she made this video if you like City of Brass, and she gave like a whole bunch of recommendations just if you liked that book. Here are a whole bunch of different recommendations, and that's where I got this one from. So it's kind of similar vibes, but a slight different video. But I really enjoyed City of Brass. It's one of those top fantasies for me. Like, all of these books that I chose are like favorite books for me that are going to be favorite books all the time. So I'm hoping those recommendations based off of that are going to be like top notch. I do find it kind of interesting. Both of the romance books were books that I was kind of already interested in and probably would have picked up on my own. I don't know that I would have picked up Gods of Jaden's Shadow. Like, it was kind of one that was like kind of on my radar, but I was like, I probably won't ever pick it up. And this next one, I wasn't intending on picking up either, but I'm very curious about it anyways. I'll tell you more after we watch the clip. Here we go.
Learning of the world. You would like it. I have another one for this category. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a little bit more sci-fi, but I think reads new adult the way that City of Brass does. And specifically, again, we are following a rebellion, which is kind of what we follow in City of Brass. And you're following our main character learn so much more, because again, he's kind of stuck in his bubble at the bottom of the totem pole, and then moves his way up and is just like, oh crap, I need to learn everything again, and just has to rethink his typical thinking. So I think you learn so much with our protagonist. Red Rising is probably my least 100% comparable. The other two I feel like were a lot stronger, but maybe that's also because I haven't read Red Rising in a really long time. But I do think that it's kind of that accessibility again. I just found Nari's character and chapters very accessible as a beginner fantasy, and I think all of these are accessible if you're interested in getting into fantasy.
Okay, so we have a rebellion in both, a character who's kind of like down on the bottom, slumming it, like we have in City of Brass, our main character is like a thief, and she's not doing great, and then obviously we are red cast in Red Rising, which is the bottom cast, and their worlds are kind of exploded and bubbles burst as they are introduced into kind of the higher society of things. It's kind of what it sounds like. So we've got kind of rebellion, kind of this bubble bursting, and very accessible type reading books between these. So that sounds good to me. I'm excited. Now this one, Red Rising, this book has a lot of elements that I'm very intrigued and interested in, but for some reason, like, it's been being talked about a lot on BookTube, and I was just like, I just don't want to add it to my TBR. Like, I was just like, it's not intriguing me enough to say this is different, and I want to put it on my TBR. And so it's just like, yeah, it has this outer space type theme, which, oh, I love, like, outer space, living on a different planet, or just being out in ships and outer space. Like, love that. Usually. I like a good rebellion plot. I like having the underdog kind of build themselves up to be on top and take down, you know, the administration or whatever you want to say. I really usually enjoy these things. So there's so many things that this book seems to allude to that I should just love. There's no reason I shouldn't want to pick up this book, but I just was always like, maybe if it happens, I guess. Well, it's happening. So here we are. I'm going to read Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So those are my 4 books that I'm going to be reading. We have The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. We have Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. We have It Happened One Summer by Tessa. And we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Now, having said that, I actually did start reading Red Rising already. And I am about 25% into that book. So we'll go ahead and just start chit-chatting a little bit vlog style now. And I'm very much enjoying it. It is very accessible as far as the writing style goes. Like, it's easy to just dive into and get into the story. I agree 100% with a lot of what Cassidy was saying. We do have this kind of a rebellion plot where this guy's eyes are just like opened up to the world and what it really is. So in this book, we're basically following our red member. Why can I never remember names? I can remember his wife's name. It was Io. Darrow, of course it is. Okay, so Darrow's a red, and basically the reds like are down under the surface of Mars mining for helium-3, which is they're told basically something that needs to be mined so that they can terraform the surface of Mars and save people from Earth who are stuck in worldwide war and famine and all these terrible things. And so they're told that they're doing something amazing for humankind, basically, and they work in these suits like for hours and hours and hours, and they sweat in them, but they can't like touch, like get the sweat off of them, so they're just dripping in sweat, and they have to go to the bathroom in the suit. Like, it sounds grueling and gross and awful, okay? So they're dealing with these awful things because they think that they're helping humankind. They don't have enough food, and then bubble burst, guess what? They have already terraformed Mars, and they're just using these people as slaves, basically. So that's kind of our bubble bursty stuff going on. But I will say, the first part of this book, my heart has already broken for some of these characters. Like, oh my god, something that happens, just like, that happened already, you know? I was just really shocked. I'm already getting invested in the story. It is very quick and easy to read, which I really appreciate it. If I'm having a hard time reading it, it's hard for me to get into a story. So I like that this one I was able to just kind of jump in and go. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far, you guys. So comparison with City of Brass. I mean, I can see how, like, we have this member of society, basically, that's kind of in this lower, slummy area that has to kind of rise and be put into a position of power over people, but deal with all these different other people who have been doing it for a lot longer, and somehow they have to compete in some way with these people. I can see those parallels for sure. The writing, again, is accessible, but definitely very different stories, which I appreciate when you're telling me, and if you like this, read this, that they're not the same exact story. Like, I want something that's got some kind of vibes or something that's similar, but I'm getting different books and stories within it. So loving that. So thank you, Cassidy, so far. Very much enjoying your selection here. And I'll update you guys when I've read more. Okay, so I am making good progress in Red Rising. I'm about 65% into it, and I like it okay. The beginning of the book, I totally was loving it. I was like really intrigued. There was so much like stuff going on between the different characters and some different, I don't know, interesting character arcs that just, I feel like it fizzled out. Like, that was the part that I was really holding on to. And I'm really hoping it kind of comes back around. Right now, I feel like all we're doing is fighting and all this war stuff and like battle-y. I don't know. It's just too much of that going on, and it's just like really brutal. But I'm missing that extra connection between characters. Like, you can kind of have some of that fighting brutality, but then like I need the characters to kind of have something else going on amongst all of them too. So suffice to say, I'm not really sure where this book's gonna go for me. It could really like go in a direction that I'm gonna be in love with this book. I definitely like the concept. It's really easy to read. Like, I read it really quickly. I get into it. So I'm enjoying like that ability to just kind of immerse myself into the story, and the ease with the writing and the details. Like, they all come to me really well. I can, you know, kind of envision what's going on, which I really appreciate. I just need a little more of the character depth to come out, and I'm hoping that like all of this kind of war bantering back between all these people is gonna like, something more is gonna happen, and we're gonna kind of come back to some of that character arc stuff that I feel like was really starting in the beginning, and some of the meat there. And gosh, there's so many struggles that could really like come out big time that I just hasn't quite hit me as good as I would want it to. So that's what I'm kind of hoping. I know this one was my comparison with City of Brass. I definitely can see some of those. Like, I can see where we were going with this recommendation, because there definitely is an underdog in the way that like our main character is this person who was always at the bottom of the bottom, and now they are expected to be on the top and kind of dealing with all this stuff that's very new to them. There's also a lot of political alliances and things to learn that the elite do, that to fit in, you kind of have to like learn all these things, and you know, just trying to intersperse yourself into that whole new society and world of the upper class. Definitely see that, and the ties between the two stories, like that's very strong. And I appreciate definitely that these are definitely very different stories though, so I'm getting a good recommendation, but it's not the same exact story, but it does have some things similar that like I can pull onto and be like, yeah, okay. So I mean, as far as that goes, definitely think it was a good recommendation, and I'm hoping that I will finish out this book today. That's kind of my goal, I'm hoping, before I have to work the next few days. So that's where I'm at, and I'll probably be updating you guys when I'm all done. Alright, so I'm back with updates for Red Rising, which I finished up a few days ago. I just haven't had a chance. I've been working a bunch to just kind of sit down and talk to you guys. So this one, I feel like started off so strong, and I was just totally invested in it. And I really appreciate the writing and how easy it was to just kind of immerse myself into the story and like get into it and understand what's going on and read and not feel like frustrated with it being too much. But I feel like after the kind of setup of everything, we just turned into all these battles and fighting and different stuff going on between all these different houses at the school, and basically like they all end up at the school as golds, and they're all trying to win. Basically, it's like their first year at school, but they all are like set out into these houses, and they're put in this big battlefield, and they all have to like basically battle each other for being top dog. But that just like took up, like it was all about just battle, strategic, how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna win, how we're gonna take over, backstabbing, this back and forth, and that just wasn't my scene. That's not something that I'm super into. And so that was kind of a struggle for me. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of some of the political stuff and some of the different relationships, and I could see that potentially coming in the series a little bit more, but I wanted more of that kind of tension where it's just like, oh, I'm really fighting for the Reds, but gosh, I'm actually like feeling for some of these golds, and they're becoming my friends, and I'm having this struggle with that, and I wanted more of that, and I wanted more of the political stuff and people backstabbing there, and so that was a little, I guess, disappointing for me. My dogs keep barking at nothing, and I'm like, you guys need to just chill. There's literally nobody at the door. There's nobody even outside, walking by, driving by, nothing. So I do feel like the story overall was interesting. I did read the whole thing, and it had a lot of intriguing pieces. There was just like other pieces that I just wish it would have tweaked a little different direction, but you know, it is what it is. I overall gave it a 4-star, which is still a pretty good rating, I feel like, and I probably will continue with the series because I am curious as to where it's going to go. Absolutely, like, there's a lot of really good directions this story could go, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So I started the next book. This one is Gods of Jaden Shadow, which was if you like The Bear and the Nightingale, you'll like this one. And I can definitely see where we were going with this selection, and I'm really enjoying the book. So we're following Cassiopeia, and she like opens up this box and lets out something that kind of just changes everything. And I think that a big part of what kind of connects these two together is that we're following a young character who doesn't want to just stick with their lot in life. They don't want to go along with what society says they are supposed to be doing, and they want some adventure and something different, and they feel like they're capable of something more, you know? And then we also have another character who's kind of older, lived for, hundreds and thousands of years, and they are wise in certain ways, but also for whatever reason, this particular person illuminates them and just kind of changes their perspective sometimes on things. And that's where I think, Becca kind of mentioned a slight romance that's kind of similar between the two, because it's not romance heavy in either of these books at all, but I see what she's talking about, and the similarity there.
But overall, I'm really enjoying the story. It's grabbing me. It's entertaining me. I'm about a quarter of the way in. I don't know if I said that. I think I'm at 26% in the audiobook. And it's very entertaining, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So far, this has been a really good selection. What do I like about this book? I think I just like the storytelling and the idea that, you know, we're following these different Mayan gods and like how they kind of, I guess, weave into the modern world. And it's not super modern. I think they're back in like the 1800s or early 1900s or something. I can't remember. I am really enjoying like the storytelling aspect and how it's being told, and just the intricacies of following this kind of, it's almost folktale-ish, but it's not, and it's not super like mythology or anything, but it just has almost like a storytelling kind of feel. And I like I'm being told a story. Like, I don't know how to exactly explain it, but it's not like a mythology or that kind of thing, but you just feel like you're sitting down in front of a storyteller and they're telling you this story. And I really love that aspect in books. I also really love when there's like little tidbits of like stories you're supposed to be learning from and then the main part of the story. This one doesn't have that, but you know, that kind of just a little bit of extra storytelling I really like. Anyways, overall, really enjoying it. I find the characters to be really dynamic. A lot of them, you know, aren't fully good. They're not fully bad. You definitely like some, and some of them are definitely way more good than others, but they don't make the best decisions all the time. They're human. You know, they're actual people. They're not made up fictional feeling, you know? So that's my overall thoughts so far. But I'm wanted to update you guys because I'm going to be listening a bunch more this afternoon or this morning. I'm running to the store and I'm going to listen while I'm there and on the way and back. So didn't want to get too far ahead without talking to you.
Hello. I have some updates because I finished Gods of Jade and Shadow. And so, yeah, I'm here to update you on that. I definitely see some of the comparisons between this and The Bear and the Nightingale, but still definitely like Bear and the Nightingale more. So far, we're 2 for 2 in that can see where the recommendations come from and what they're trying to go for, but at the same time, like, the originals I like more than the next ones, but still good recommendations, and still like I enjoyed both the reads that I finished so far, if that makes sense. So anyways, wrapping this one up, I feel like sometimes when you go through like these travel-y, questy type fantasy books, it's just like the same thing. We're kind of tasked with 3 different trials or something, and you have to get through this, that, and the other. And that's just kind of what I felt like this was, and I'm kind of getting exhausted by that type of fantasy at the moment. So that's been a little bit rough and a little bit of a struggle for me in general, and I felt like that's what this was a little, especially since it's a standalone and there's just not a lot more room for it to go anywhere. But I did really enjoy the writing, and I thought it was really interesting using the Mayan gods and some of that kind of mythology, folklore, whatever you want to call it. I think was really interesting, just integrating some of those stories and making it a real thing, and having her walk the road in their like world. I can't remember the exact termage, I'm sorry. I think character-wise, I loved the strongness of our character, and I thought she was compelling and interesting, but I definitely feel like I could have felt a little bit more for the characters than I did. I think what really is similar between these books is the atmosphere. I think it's really well built up in both books, and the writing is well done, luscious, pretty writing. I do enjoy both of the writing styles quite a bit. And then it just, the plot and the characters were, you know, they were good. And it was entertaining. But it wasn't anything phenomenal for me on this one, like it was with The Bear and the Nightingale, if that makes sense. So I definitely still enjoyed it. It just didn't live up to the hype of the original book. And I gave this one 4 stars as well. So we've had 2 4-star reads, which is really good. And I'm really happy with the reading. And I'm happy that I'm enjoying some books right now because I'm still trying to get out of my slump a little bit and funk and whatever. So it's good to have some good books to be reading. And I'm really excited for the next 2 books because they're going to be the 2 romance books. And I am in the mood for the romance happening. So. Okay, guys. So I am back with some updates because I am almost halfway into the Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. And this one, I believe, was the one that was compared with the Love Hypothesis. We do have some kind of women in STEM type themes that go through both books, which I'm personally loving. I love having some sciencey aspects to the books. And in the Soulmate Equation, we are talking a lot about genetics. And for me, that is like one of my favorite things in science. I find it fascinating and super interesting. I wish, honestly, there was maybe a little bit more of that in this book, but obviously it's a romance book, so I mean, there's going to be only so much. So in the Soulmate Equation, we have Jessica, and she is a single mom, and she's kind of like given up on love, but she ends up sending in a spit sample to this app that she met the creator for, and she kind of finds him to be a grump, and she, you know, thinks he's attractive, but past that, she like thinks he's like talking to a live human calculator, basically. And she's frustrated one night, and so she ends up sending in her sample, and this app takes genetics and match makes people, and you basically get scored on how well you would match with someone and would it make a lasting relationship. And so it's so fun. She ends up getting matched with the guy that she knows who helped create all of this. And so now they're kind of getting into this fake dating thing because she's very skeptical, as is he, about the results. And obviously she was feeling more hate vibes than love vibes at first. And puppies. Anyways, totally losing my train of thought. So basically they get into kind of a fake dating thing to see how things work out because it would be a good PR for the business, and they want to see how things would work out with a match that's as high as theirs. And she also kind of needs some money being a single mom, and so she's actually going to get into a contract to make some money as well. And so they've just started doing a couple different things. They've gone on one date, and then they did talk to a interviewer for a paper, journalist. That's the word I'm trying to think of. So far, it's really been, like, it was kind of slow to start, honestly, but also, like, I really am connecting with some of the things with this main character. I'm not a single mom, but I am a mom, and I think that some of that, like, is really woven into the story, and I'm really enjoying that piece of it. It's really fun, and you can connect to it. Like, she's, like, talking about, towards the beginning, having to worry about showing up because to work without having like a stain on you, or like your kid's barrette like still stuck to you, or glitter on you, or something like that. And I'm like, these are just the mom things, you know, that we have to really think about. There was one little quote thing that I actually underlined recently that I was like, well, yeah, okay. Okay, so it said, did every mom feel like this? Just worked too much or didn't work enough? She was spoiling Juno, or Juno wasn't getting everything she needed. Jess was a helicopter mom, or she was ignoring her kid. More often than not, Jess, oh, no, that was just the rest. So, like, I feel like you feel that as a mom. Like, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm giving my kid too much. I'm going to make her spoiled. But then, like, you also feel bad not giving her things because you want to make sure that they have everything that they want and need and have a good childhood. And you just, like, are constantly overthinking and trying to balance it. And, you know, am I punishing enough to where they're not, you know, being spoiled? But then I don't want to, like, over punish because then I'm not, you know, I want them to still have fun and learn. And it's just, you get it if you get it, right? So I'm really enjoying some of that, actually, the mom aspects. And some of the science stuff's great as well, don't get me wrong. But I feel like just kind of in this last maybe 10%, we're starting to get a little bit more of the chemistry between the two characters. So that I feel like took a little while, but I'm getting into it, and you're definitely starting to see some of their chemistry, and I'm thinking that's really cute, and I'm excited to see where the story's going to go. So far this recommendation is going really well. I do have a good experience with Christina Lauren's work in general too. So, alrighty guys, so I finished up the Soulmate equation last night, and it was really cute, and I really enjoyed it. I got very invested in Jessica and River and their cute relationship, and Juno, her daughter, and just, it was really fun. I really enjoyed their romance, and wasn't really expecting, I guess, the conflict that came, so that was kind of interesting, and kind of like, okay, but I thought it was really cute. I really enjoyed it. I will say the end, like, I was kind of like, why do I still have like 10% left right now? I was like, this, like, what's going on here? And there's like a whole like long end part, kind of almost like an epilogue in the future. And I just don't know if it was totally necessary. Like, part of it was definitely really cute, and I really appreciated it, and I thought it was really sweet. But like another part of me was like, this is a little too long, and like I just, like, if it was a little more condensed and shorter, or I don't know, it just started feeling kind of long, and I don't know if maybe I was just really tired last night. And I was trying to finish up the book last night because I was, well, partially because I was invested, but partially because I knew I had to go to work for the next few days and I wouldn't be able to read as much. So I was like, I just want to finish this book and just, you know, get through it, and then have enjoyed it and binged my way through it. So anyways, it's done. It's cute. I ended up giving it 4 stars. So it was definitely a really fun one. And I definitely can see comparisons with the love hypothesis and some of the more sciencey aspects and women in STEM. And I just love that whole concept. So that was really fun. They are definitely their own unique books as well. So gotta appreciate that as well. So that's my little complaint. See you guys with the next one. We are moving into the next book here. I started It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Now, this was one that I was a little nervous about because I have read from this author before and it wasn't my favorite. But so far, I'm very much enjoying this one, and it is super cute. And Alexis vibes are very strong from Schitt's Creek. Like, it's totally cute. Oh my goodness, I have like hair or something. Anyways, so this one is about Piper. She is basically like this spoiled rich kid, and she gets herself into some trouble, and so her stepdad is like, you know what, you've had everything given to you your whole entire life, you've never had to work for anything, you need to like realize that that's not all there is to life. So he sends her to this little podunk fishing town for 3 months, and he says, you are going to go there, and we actually own this old bar out there that we've owned for like 10 years, and technically it's actually yours. And so you can go and stay there, and I'm going to give you a little bit of money to get started, and then you got to figure it out from there. And otherwise she's going to get cut off from all the money that he usually gives her. And so her sister's like, well, I'm not going to let her go by herself. So the two of them go, and this is actually where they lived when they were like little, and then, but they don't really remember much about it. So they're learning a little bit more about that while they're there. But they also run into, I think it's Brendan, and he is kind of this grumpy fisherman, and Piper and him do not get off to the greatest start when they get there. He just thinks she's like a spoiled, rotten, rich girl. And so, yeah, but it's getting cute because he's starting to, I think, realize that that's not all there is to her. And I think she's also starting to realize that too. because I think she was just kind of like, well, maybe that is all that I've got. But I feel like that's not. So, you know, I think it's going to be really good for her to learn a little something about herself. And I think their romance is going to be really stinking adorable. So I'm about a quarter of the way in, and the setup has just been wonderful and beautiful. And I'm just, yeah, I'm totally rooting for him, having a really good time with these characters. And I'm already like thinking about the second book in this. I think it's just 2 books. I think we're following the other sister in the other book. I'm already like, well, I think that one's probably going to go on the list too. But it could be a little early. We're only a quarter of the way in. So hopefully it'll keep going like this, and I will update you guys when I get a little farther. Hey friends, I finished It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and it was so adorable. Oh my goodness, I loved it. I loved it so much. I definitely have to give Tessa Bailey another shot, apparently, because this one just, it was super cute. Loved the kind of grump sunshine going on, a little bit of some hate to love. We saw a transformation of our characters, the cute little small sea town. Like, it was amazing and I loved it. So yeah, this one was a 5-star. Absolutely. I don't know if I talked too much about the comparisons with It Happened One Summer and The Simple Wild, so real quick, I would say definitely they both have kind of these smaller, isolated, small town feels in them, and then we have this kind of grumpy guy and a more sunshine city girl who's like stuck out in this wilderness, and they're just like, I don't know what I'm doing because this is not my vibe usually, and it works, and they both grow and learn from each other, both sides, the hero and heroine, and it just, it was beautiful. Just like Simple Wild, so loved it. Anyways, so glad to be finishing out with such a wonderful book. I mean, all of these were really great, and I really enjoyed doing this, like I said. So I'd say, like, we did good, you guys. This is the last one. So we had, oh my gosh. I've been doing this video over a while, so I'm like, I gotta go back and think about what else we read. Okay, so we read, I can see the cover in my head. What is it called? Oh man. Oh, Gods of Jaden Shadow. I'm like, I can see the cover. Like, hello, Heather. Let's just connect. Anyways, sorry. Okay, so that one was a 4-star. Really enjoyed it. That was a good pick. Definitely can see good comparisons there. Then we had, okay, sorry. I just totally realized that this was the end of the vlog, and I was like, oh, I was just coming on here to update you about It Happened One Summer, not to actually end this vlog. And then I was like, you know what? I gotta end this vlog. So let's think a little bit. So we also read Red Rising, and that one is another 4-star, and then Soulmate Equation, which was a 4-star, and we ended it out with It Happened One Summer, which was a 5-star. Considering nothing was below a 4-star, I would definitely say that, you know, you can take those recommendations. If somebody's saying, if you like this book, read this book, like, pretty spot on, guys. Like, that was really good and really fun, and I kind of want to do it again. If you guys would like to see me do this again in the future, please let me know down below, and, you know, maybe like the video or give me a thumbs up in the comments or something like that, so I can know, like, you guys were enjoying this. But I had a blast with it, and I got to, you know, take some of those recommendations and actually read them and see what it's all about, and I think they were all really good recommendations. So if you made it all the way to the end, you don't feel like chit-chatting, you just want to say that you were here, leave me just a heart emoji down below. Just, you know, because I've read a couple romances recently, obviously, for this video, and we're just in the mood for love. Anyways, I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you guys have a really wonderful day, week, and month, and I will talk to you later. Bye, everybody.